mentioned it, it's a little dark. We're going to lighten it up just a little bit, but the main attraction here is the light hitting the top of this dune, coming through these reeds right here, these whatever you would call these, and the see how some of them are like white almost in there. We're going to get all that good glow in there. But to start with, we've got to get the sky, and I see that it does have clouds. We're not going to be intimidated by that. We're going to put those in there. They're going to look good. We got to start with the blue in the way back. And you can, I don't know if it shows up really good in here, but there's a little bit of a blue there. As you get over here, it's got a little bit of a pink to it.
Yeah.
And even right here, that's green. Look at that color. We always talk about not having a green sky. That is like a seafoam green right there almost. So we're going to try to get some crazy colors going in here first. And I'm just going to start with some Ultramarine Blue and Gesso. Get the whole new fancy palette here. We'll put a little bit of magenta in that to start with. And that's definitely one of the colors. That looks like that's going to be what I want kind of on this side. Maybe a little more white with it. As it comes across, it's going to be a little more blue. Oh, make a mess on stuff. Blue. That's going to have some more white in it too. And then I think if we put the tiniest amount of yellow in that, this is usually a no-no for us. I think we can get a little bit of that pale green. Very pale, very subtle. I think the key to this is going to be the subtlety of how these colors kind of progress. Let's do some mixing on the canvas too, so let's start there. For my horizon line, I'll just take a pencil, and so I have my picture up here, I can kind of mark. It's going to be about there, about right there. Just gives me an idea of kind of where to stop. So we'll start with this little bit of a green down here, and that almost got the right color. Put a little bit more yellow in that. This is first layer, like always. We're going to do a couple of layers of this, so you don't have to get it perfect on the first try through. Next step is going to be this blue. Do it with it wet, so I can kind of blend it a little bit. A little bit more of just the straight blue. The transition between these colors shouldn't be very noticeable. If I hadn't pointed it out on there, you might not have even noticed it at all. Each of these, it's 90% blue with the tiniest amount of magenta, and then the same blue with the tiniest amount of yellow. So that's our progression of what these colors are going to do. And when you put them on here separate like that and trying to blend them, especially first coat on a white canvas, you're never going to get this to blend smoothly. Best you can hope to do is kind of hide some of your paint lines with, some of your paint strokes with lightly kind of feathering over it, and kind of halfway blend it and work on blending it on the next few coats. So first coat, that's good enough. Second coat, I'll do the same kind of thing, and if it needs to be a little more intense, a little less intense, you can adjust that as you go. But first step is we're going to do about 3 coats of this purple to blue to green. All right. Step real quick. Before we can put these clouds in, we got this darker band that kind of runs here because we're going to put these light clouds in front. For them to stand out, we need that darker color behind there. It's just this little section, and it doesn't have any, the bottom edge of it's going to be covered by this cloud, so we're not really worried about how it fades down in the bottom. At the top, we want it to kind of disappear into what's behind there. And you can see I tried to play with that color a little bit, made some of it here. It's a weird looking color. It's a green in a way, but it's made with pretty much all of the colors we've used plus a little bit of brown. So I'm going to start with my little light blue pool that I had here, and I'm going to just first kind of turn it yellow. I'm just going to use what's here. Get a little bit of blue in it, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of brown. And you'll see that it starts to kind of go towards that. What color would that be called? It's like a mossy, sort of a mossy color. And it's pretty dark. It's not super dark. I would say touch it on your paper like I did here. I was kind of touching it on the edge as I was mixing it to kind of see where I was at. If it needs to be a little more green, add some yellow to it. If it's a little too dark, add some white. Yeah, so that's about the color there. And it's just a little section of it right here. And my canvas is dry. I'm just going to kind of put it on here. And the bottom, I'm just going to kind of soften it because it's going to be covered anyway. But as it goes out, I kind of want that to kind of fade into the other color. And one way to do that is to pick up some of that color and kind of add it to it. Yeah, and then just kind of feather it out. I think that's good enough. It's dark, but it's not really, really dark. It just needs to be a little darker than the rest so that the clouds in front of it will show up a little bit. And then we're about to put a bunch of clouds on there. So that's good enough. So a little dark streak here that fades up at the top. The bottom don't matter as much. All right. So we got pretty much the background color in. And you can see it. This looks very different than what I've got there. So what I've got is the stuff you're seeing through the clouds here. So there's a lot of cloud cover on this. We want to talk about how the direction of it real quick. Let's look at this picture. One of the good things that I liked about this photo is how these clouds follow a pattern. Are you seeing this kind of shape that they do here? Do you see that? They kind of curl this way. And then as you get to the bottom down here, these are real small. All in here are real small, and there's not really anything in here but this green, and then you've got these really bright ones. So the sun is back here somewhere, setting way back on the side, so it's shining through this across here and lighting up that cloud on that side. So all of this up here is kind of above, the sun is low. So we want to make that shelf, that kind of like where you're looking, it gives it a little depth where you're underneath this sky. And so the shape of how these lines of clouds come down like this is important. Up here they kind of curl. And they're almost solid coverage. You can only see the sky through in certain places. But they're not shaped individual puffy little clouds. They're just a mass of clouds. So let's get that color first. It's going to be a gray. Gray is going to be blue and brown together makes black. And then if you bring a white into it, it makes it kind of gray. And we want it to kind of be, that gray is a little bit more purple. I'm going to put a little bit of this magenta in there. Seeing that? I need to pick it up. Got a little bit of magenta, and I mentioned I wanted to lighten this up just a little. Let's see what that looks like on my actual canvas. I think that's probably going to be pretty close. So in order to get these, I want to think about that shape. And here's another thing, and be sure that you do this. Very, very important. Mark where your water is going to be. I got a little pencil mark there. I got it too high. Okay, so a pencil mark there where the water is, and another one right here where the top of those clouds is going to be. Okay, so I know that I need to leave this part blank. So my sky is going to stop, my clouds are going to stop about here. So thinking about the way that they sweep in, they're kind of going to come along here, like that. Just kind of designing this sky how I want it to end up. And then from up here, they kind of curl around this way. Everything kind of curls down to this point over here, right? It's pretty solid up in this corner. There's nothing in this section. Everything's real small, but this part down below, this green area, is kind of left alone. So I'm just going to kind of dry brush this. I've got this brush has paint in it, but as I go onto the canvas, it's going to put some paint on. But I'm just going to keep working the brush side to side until it uses up all the paint. And then just keep scrubbing. And this is just a soft, flat brush, like we use for a lot of things. Don't think about trying to make individual clouds as much as trying to make the shape of the sky, how everything folds in.
Is there gesso in there?
There is. So this is that bottom section where they're really small, that kind of fades down into this where there's really not any clouds. As I go up, get a tiniest bit of water in that. I probably have to make some more of this paint. As I go up, I'm going to keep that side to side. If you keep your brush kind of flat and do that side to side scrubbing and just leave holes, it'll kind of do it for you. Just kind of work the paint out of the brush. You don't want any hard edges. So once the brush is kind of empty, go back over what you just did and soften up all the little edges. Now, obviously, I don't want to see these lines that I made in here. Seamlessly transition from this larger clouds to those smaller ones down there. This is just scrubbing. I gotta make some more paint real quick. Blue, brown, magenta, white. Lightly, if I'm a little too pink, I can put a little more blue. So I don't want to go on the canvas with this much paint on my brush. I'll make a huge mess. So mix the paint, kind of squeeze it all out, and then I might even just clean it out of the brush completely like that. And then go pick up a little bit. Just keeping it flat, zigzag, scrubbing back and forth. I won't make you watch all of this. It's going to be basically the same pattern kind of all the way across. And I'm going to focus on, I want these lines to be here, but I don't want to, I don't want to see lines. I just want it to kind of, my clouds will kind of create those lines, if that makes sense. With the direction that they're going. Okay, and I'll take a picture of this when I'm done and show that part. We don't do the bottom yet. We'll come back and do the bottom cloud. So this is all the dark gray at the top first. Okay, so this is not a second step. It's just kind of a little bit of the same step. Once you get a lot of your gray in, remember we had kind of purplish up here and then blue across the middle and green down here. I'm going to go back with some of that same color and some in the middle of the cloud some places. Just fill in a little bit of that purple, the sky showing through. And you can soften some of those edges here and there with that and help to create those swooping lines. So I'm going to use purple up there. I've already been doing some blue in the middle here. And then, you know, as you get down here on the end, that's when I'm going to want to have some of my green. Make a little bit of that. And so that's, yeah, gesso in every one of them. So just a little here and there. And this kind of gives you the sky showing through your clouds. Kind of makes it look less like like it's just a layer of purple on there. You can kind of see a little bit of a green sky showing through down here. And every step of the way you're thinking about creating those swoopy lines. But same kind of thing. Put a little paint here and there and then go back and kind of soften it, blend it. Just some. Doesn't take much of that. That's all. Night 2. So we got this, we got to finish up our sky. What's left is this cloud at the bottom. I've been playing with some color mixing to try to figure out how to make some of these colors, but we'll get to that in a minute. But this cloud, I think the way we're going to have to put it in is just do it in white first, just gesso, and let it kind of fade out as it goes over here because it kind of disappears into the background. But especially right in here, we're going to want it to be really, maybe in a couple coats of white, to be real white, and then come back and colorize it the way it needs to be. So to begin with, I'm first going to just mark where my horizon is going to be. I don't want it to get out of position. Find my pencil here. Get it. Let's see. So my horizon is going to be down here. And my clouds are going to go up to about there. So, covers up a lot of my green, but that's okay. You'll see some of it through there. just as this ain't gonna be a permanent line. It's probably not straight, but I just want to give myself an idea about where that horizon, where that's going to be. All right, so my clouds are going to come up a little bit. So this part, we're just going to have to kind of draw these in, and then, like I said, just in gesso to begin with. And I just got a small.
Which brush?
This is just a small round brush with a small tip, and I'm really just going to try to draw some top edges to some of this cloud here. Just kind of do little circles and let it go where it wants to go. There's really some place right in about here where it gets the brightest. It's a pretty distinct line. It's not real soft at the top. So I'm gonna let it be kind of hard line at the top if it wants to be. That's kind of scary because not as forgiving. Just don't think about it too much. Don't really want it to look like trees. As it goes over, some places come up higher because as it comes over, it is going to kind of disappear into, like I said, it kind of fades out. So I'm going to let that happen. Now the bottom of it is pretty solid. And this is going to take a few coats on the brightest part, but on the edges and stuff, I think it's okay that it can have some of that blue showing through it. So for that reason, I'm going to let my texture be kind of, I'm not going to make long, smooth brush strokes. I'm going to let it kind of be choppy, because if it shows through, it'll look right. And I wanted to put that line on here because I want to make sure I go below it. I don't want to stop at the line. I want to make sure I go low enough to kind of cover it. We're going to paint that back in there. All right. As we go over, just scrub a little more and let that kind of fade away. There are a couple spots where there's a little brighter, stuff here and there. But as it goes over there, it fades almost completely away.
That looks like a tide coming in.
It does kind of look like a wave, doesn't it, at this point?
Ooh, yeah, with this green up under it.
Yeah.
I saw some beautiful beaches.
It ain't going to stay white, so
You should have taken a
hopefully it won't look like that long. All right. Over here is mostly going to be covered up by my sand dune, but I want to make sure that smooths out. Even may take a little water on my finger and just kind of smooth out that top edge. I want it to kind of fade off into nothing over on this side. About like that. Alright, so that's the first coat. I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to do maybe a second coat, especially right in here. It may be dry enough now to put a little bit. I'm going to get it really good and bright right in here. And still don't want to make some, I still want to make some texture, I still want to make some texture to it, not make it smooth and perfect. So I don't have to go all the way to the edges. Some spots can be brighter than others. You may have some spots in the middle that are kind of brighter than what's behind it. I'm just gonna put it on and scrub it off, and that's gonna work better when it's completely dry. So I think I'm gonna stop right there and let that dry. And we'll do some more in a minute. All right, we got that second coat, got it a little brighter in the white spots, and I kind of left some places where the green kind of shows through, especially over here, that blue-green shows through. Probably won't do that much more over here to any of that. But as it comes over, none of this cloud is actually white in this picture. So we got to figure out these colors. And this is going to be the important part. When you're mixing these colors, you got to really use your reference to kind of get those colors to be close to what they are on there. So first I want to get this brightest color, which is kind of a peach. I'm going to start with some yellow and magenta, and magenta is very strong, so it doesn't take much of it at all. And you just kind of got to play with this until you get the right color. I'm going to pull a little white in beside it, see if that can get close to it. I think I'm a little too yellow right now.
Using a flat brush?
Just something to mix with. When I put it actually on there, I don't know, I may use this brush, but maybe may go back to my smaller brush, so because I got to cover up all of that white, and I don't want to get into my sky too much. So what I might do is just check that right there and see what it looks like. It's pretty close. Could be a little lighter even. It's going to dry a little darker too, so my brightest bright, I'll start there. This is going to be about it right here. I think I will start back with my smaller brush just so I can get in the small areas. Alright, and I'm just going to move that out of the way and just kind of color this, and it'll show up really good on here on this white. It'll make it bright for me. It's got a little bit of water in it, so it's a little watery, and if I go over the edge a little, it'll just soften that edge a little for me. It's fine. If I get too carried away, I could use my finger to kind of blend that out. It's not going to look right till we get it all in. So that's the bright. And it may take a couple of coats of this to get it to be the right color, but that'll be the color for now. Brightest part of it. Then I've got another bright spot kind of in here. Mine isn't exactly like the other picture. My clouds didn't, I kind of let them go where they wanted to go. But this is the bright spot. And I don't care if I don't get all the way up into the top edge. If that very top edge holds a little white, that's okay. It'll just look brighter. That in here and there. There's some brighter streaks through here. Brighter over here. Alright, so my next color, it looks like it's got a little more magenta in it. Start with that same. I better go back to my other brush so I can make more paint. Start with some yellow again. Some magenta. And you really just kind of mix a little bit of this and just play with it and get it exactly where you want it. The key is just checking it against your reference. This is going to be a little bit more pink, a little more peach. And I always tend to get the color mixed a little dark first and then lighten it. But when you're doing that, look at my reference here. I know this is a little dark. When you're trying to lighten a puddle that's there, it's best to pull some white out beside it and then add the dark into the light, because it's hard to lighten a whole pile. If I just started putting white in there, it would take a lot more to get where I want to go. And that's not much different in value from what I had before, but it is a different color. It is more peach. That's a little too light, so we'll put some of the dark back in there. Be somewhere in here. Yeah, I'm just going to get as close as I can to that. And then going to kind of apply that. Now these blend pretty smoothly with each other, so.
Did you do magenta and?
It's all just magenta and yellow so far, and white. Gesso.
A little more yellow the first time, a little more magenta the second time.
Yeah, we've got a little more of that peach color to it. My other is just about dry, so I can kind of scrub into that. Make sure I cover all my white up here. Just kind of got to get that soft blend in there. As it comes over, it's got even more magenta. Looks like it gets even pinker as it kind of comes over into the middle. Let it do that. Just kind of put some paint on here, then I'll rinse out a little bit and scrub it around. Yeah, I like the way that's working. Kind of softly blending it as good as I can. Now that up here, still got some white up there, so I'm trying to cover that up a little. Over here, it's just kind of soft. It even goes into a little more of a gray,
Yes.
which it kind
I
of
do see
disappears
gray in
into
there.
the. So I'm gonna make a little gray. I'm just doing a little blue and brown, white to give me a gray, sort of a blue gray. And I think if I mix it with some of that, it'll kind of give me that,
Oh, yeah.
that
That looks
halfway
pretty
effect.
good.
Yeah,
That
that's
looks
pretty close. That'll give me that transition color, and
Yes,
it
that looks
eventually just
good.
fades into what's behind there. By doing the white underneath, it really is forgiving. It really helps it stand out a little bit better, and it lets all the colors show through. As it gets over here, it's kind of going more into that gray. So I'm covering up all of my white. The only places that it kind of shows through is in the lighter spots. That's
Where
okay.
the sun is coming through the cloud.
That's probably as far as I want to get that. I may let that dry, and I may come back and darken. I'm looking at it, it looks a little bit maybe too light around the bottom part. I may come back with some of that blue, maybe even wash over some of that to darken it just a little bit. That's, if I left it right there, that's probably good enough.
Yeah, yeah. I like it.
It's got to have some bright spots and some darker areas, and I think will be good. Alright, so I went ahead and kind of drew in. Now, this is critically important. I didn't trace that off of here. I put it up here, I made a mark, I measured with my ruler to figure out exactly how high that was, and then I went down and made a few other marks along there to make that line perfectly straight. Got to make sure that water is perfectly straight. And just to see kind of where everything falls, I went ahead and sketched in some of this. You don't have to do that yet, but I just wanted to see kind of where my ocean is first, because that's what we'll do next. And to make it good and straight, I'm going to cheat and use some of this tape, get it off the roll. And I like to make the line first. Sometimes you can just make 2 dots and put the tape up there, but the tape kind of tends to flex a little bit. So I like to make the dots and go ahead and draw the line. And then I can kind of watch it as I go down and make sure the tape is not flexing to the, because you don't want to get that water line to be crooked. The last thing you want is for that to be crooked. And just a tip, when you're using this tape, pushing it down like that doesn't do it good enough. You gotta kind of take your fingernail and rub the edge of that, get it sealed really good down on that edge. And of course you want to make sure that everything underneath is dry first. You don't want to be pulling tape off and pulling your clouds off. So color. The color for this water. It is not blue. I played with that color earlier and kind of mixed a little color to it. It's really gray. Every color in this bottom half has all 4 of these colors in it to some degree, including the water. So we'll start with that. I'll start with a little blue, put some brown with it. Kind of gives me a bluish black. I'll add a little gesso so we can get the color, see what the color looks like. We'll go a little more towards blue. That's way too much towards blue. Okay. Now, it's not a pretty color, but if I look at what this is, it's got a lot of that orange in it too, so it's going to have some of this yellow and magenta in it as well. More white to get it show up a little bit better. That's probably pretty close to my color right there. Now, test that on my, I had done it before just by kind of folding that over. Test that color, it's pretty close. I'm going to start with that for the first coat. It'll take a few coats, and it'll take tweaking it a little bit as we go.
I'm sorry. What did you mix?
All 4 colors.
Okay.
Mostly blue and brown, but a touch of yellow and magenta. And it does show up a little bit on this side too. That's why I wanted to sketch those dunes in there, kind of see where all it shows up. As it comes down, the color changes a little bit, but I'm going to come on down to where the bottom line of it, which I sketched in, where the bottom edge of that water line is. Just block that in. This is just a block. This is just a solid coat block in. Keep my brush strokes somewhat horizontal, but definitely don't want to go over this, especially with a lot of water in your paint. You don't want to go over that this way with tape. If you do have to go over it, kind of come down this way so you don't go under your tape. If the paint's kind of creamy, it won't matter. But if it's real watery, it can go up under that tape. That's frustrating. While we're in that now, while I still got you, let me get a bigger brush, and I want to make a base color for this sand dune. This is strictly going to be blocking in underpainting. Let's talk about that color for a second. It's going to be brown. I'm just going to pick a spot because it's going to have all four of these colors in it anyway. It's going to be brown and blue, but this time it's leaning more towards the brown. You put some white in that. It'll be kind of a brownish gray. It's going to have some yellow. That sand color has yellow in it. It has a little bit of the magenta in it too. It's got all four, and that makes kind of a muddy color, but it's a good place to kind of start there and kind of add a little of what it needs based on what you see here. Now, if I just kind of touch it here in the middle, I don't want to mess up the picture too much. I was kind of using the back here to see what it looks like. I'm a little too dark, so first thing I want to do is go a little lighter. And I'm a little too gray, I can tell that, so we'll go a little more brown. You just kind of go little small adjustments here and there to see where you want to be. And in those first coat, we just got to get close. Don't have to be perfect, we just got to be close. And I would say that's probably close. Probably need to be a little lighter. But that's probably close. Yeah, that's very close. And for that, now that I've got my water in, I'm going to go ahead and peel this.
No matter what I do.
I'm going to peel that. And I know there's a lot of different colors in this dune, but I'm just going to block it in. This is just blocking it in. And when I drew this, I purposely didn't go all the way to the top. I left a little space at the top for our, all of our grasses and all that. I kind of just estimated a little bit lower than, kind of drew the line a little bit lower than where it actually is. But it's important to do these block-in phases because it helps your brain to kind of see how everything lays out. It helps you to kind of see where things are going to be. That's my little spot where I had tried to make this color earlier. Pretty close.
Because we're going to go over it with a lighter color.
Yeah, everything's going to be covered. Even the same color stuff's going to have another coat probably, but just want to kind of get this in. And I'm going to try to keep this line, I can put it back in there, but that line is where the dune stops. Everything back there is a little further away, so I'm trying to change that color just a little, even though it's not that much different in the picture. It'll just help me with my block in.
Just lighten it a little bit?
Yeah, just to help me see what's what. Right. We're going to change these colors as we go. This is just the block in. I just want to get the painting covered with paint so my brain can see a landscape versus, splotches of paint.
Good.
See, that already kind of gives it something.
Oh, come on.
Finish my,
Just
kind of get it all kind of smoothed in a little bit.
Looks good.
So I don't have any weird brush strokes to cover up later. All right, if we can all get that far tonight, that'll be good progress. So tonight, the goal, I think, is to get some of this sand better. Maybe not all the grasses yet, but I definitely want to finish this back area with the water and try to get the sand toned right, the colors and everything exactly like this, and maybe even our highlights blocked in, but not so much all the detail stuff just yet. We'll finish the details next week. But you can see my color on my sand is off, but that was the first coat, so the first thing we're going to do is I think try to get that a little closer to what this shade is, maybe even a little lighter than what this is. But notice, looking at this picture, if you can see it good enough in the video, there's a lot of pink in here. There's a lot of colors in there. So there's pink, There's a little bit of a bluish shade down here, especially as you get towards the water. And then we've got that peach from the sky reflecting in the water here and in the ripples going up. These little white caps here are not white, they're more of a light blue. So there's a lot of little things, but the main thing tonight's going to be getting the colors to be right, getting them to be accurate. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to make another layer of that sand, and try to get closer on that color. And I'm going to do with, just going to have to go back and forth and figure out what works. I know my base for this is going to be brown and yellow. That blue is going to make it a little more towards gray. So you can kind of get the hue right, the color of it right, and then slowly tint it with the gesso. But until it gets to the right value, you really can't tell if your color's right. It's kind of one of the things you got to take your time mixing it. And then you can't tell when it's on this white palette plate if it's going to look right on the canvas or not. And that's getting closer. I'm just going to do a thin layer of that, kind of all over. As you're putting these washes on, you want to think about kind of the way the land kind of flows, because now's the chance to kind of start creating some of that. Not a whole lot, just you mainly don't want to do it wrong. You don't want to have all vertical strokes and it ends up looking weird. So if you do have brush strokes that show, at least let them flow with the contour of the land. Now, as I get a big mass of that on there, I can tell that's going to be a little too yellow. Tone that down with a little blue, make it a little more gray. But you can put a little bit of that magenta in there. There is a good bit of that in this section. There's a lot of that magenta. Well, I won't say a lot. It's never a lot. But there's some of that pink shows through there. Kind of mix some of it on the canvas. Yeah, get some of that to show up a little bit there. And it may take a couple coats of this to get right, but that's one thing we're going to work on, getting that to be closer to the right shade, or the right values, and the right hue. But then we're going to start, while that's going, I'm going to kind of go back and forth between that and the little beach over here. Now notice I got brush strokes. That was a very rough first layer. Smaller brush.
Is that a dagger?
Yeah, it's just whatever you want to use, flat brush or a dagger or something to get in that smaller area with. I'm going to start with some of that same color, which again is a little bit of everything till it feels right. And that's got a pretty good bit of the magenta on that side too. Get a good solid coat of that. Lighter. What'd you say?
She said, I knew I needed magenta. And I said, you were right. You might have
Yeah.
given too much away.
You don't need too much of it though.
No, she had a blob. So I went over and got some. Don't get magenta for her.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this, y'all remember when we did the beach with the ocean, how we had kind of the water was kind of see-through at where the water overlaps the sand.
Yeah.
We're gonna do a little bit of that with water. Just get a little bit of water, and you can kind of wash that sand up under the water there, and it'll serve to let the water wash over the sand. It makes it kind of look see-through. I got it a little too wet. But ultimately, we want to have it do like this. And I think one of the first things I'm gonna have to do is get that really bright peach reflecting in there, and then that dark edge up over it. I think I'll put the peach in first, and then come back and bring the dark in. So let's start with that. I'm gonna go with make a little bit of this peach first. Made it enough times for the sky. Should remember how to do it. It's got a lot of gesso in it. A little more magenta. Magenta's so strong, you have to really be careful with it. That's probably about right. That's kind of that color, yeah. So that's just kind of right in here, and it's pretty thick. Probably gonna take a couple coats of it even to cover all that. I'm gonna let that, put a couple coats of this on here and let it dry. It kind of goes all the way up. Now I want to make sure, and y'all, this is one thing that'll trip you up on this painting. If you start making these water lines go up, it's going to look weird. They all need to be flat. You need to try to create, even more so than this photo, we need to try to create as much flat there that we can, as much horizontal, by doing stuff like this, just kind of pulling out little horizontal shapes in there. Even if you have to go up, do it with horizontal steps rather than going with a line that goes upward. So that'll be the first coat of that. It'll take some drying. We'll put some blue on top of it. It's going to take a little work over here on that. The other color, this is all still just in blocking in. Now we blocked in the big areas and we're blocking it in a little bit more detailed. The other color I want to talk about is this really bright reflection on here. And it's going to take some layers because you're covering up something dark to get it. And it's pretty close to this color up here. Maybe a little more yellow, so that's kind of what I made for my ocean. If I can get it just a little more yellow, I'm going to make a whole lot of it. That might be a good first coat for it. But then those are, I may want to even draw where that goes. Maybe not. Just for the first coat, maybe not. It's going to have this really distinct bright area right here. It kind of starts there where the water is. You have water showing there.
I made some.
You put some in
Yeah.
there? Okay, good. I'll fix the, it's going to have the grasses and things on top as well. But there's a little there. Some of that is grasses. There's a little area shows through, like right there. Some back on top of this one. Just an idea. And that's one of the selling points of this painting. So we'll go ahead and start getting that kind of blocked in, just in spots, so it can be a layer that, because we're going to put lighter and lighter and lighter layers to get it to stand out. So let's just start there. We're going to block in here, then we'll just, next step, we'll just focus on just the water. We'll just block in and try to get our biggest shapes closer to the right color, and then we'll start working on the water next. Okay, got pretty much blocked in. I want to spend some time on this water, and I did kind of got my highlight there and did a couple washes. I may have to do a little more wash over this to get it a little brighter, that lighter wash, but I think what's going to make it really stand out is that dark kind of brown edge under where the wet sand is, going up to where the water is. We'll do that first. And I'm just going to use a liner brush, try to get that color. That's going to be brown and some blue to get that dark brown. Just have to tone it down just a little. That's probably close. That's a little too gray. Browner with it, maybe. Something about like that. Enough water in here to make it flow right. Kind of roll that to a point, and then you really just want to get right up on the edge of where that light is. The lightest color is where it's going to be the darkest. And again, I want to keep as many like horizontal lines as possible. I don't want a lot of kind of 45-degree angle lines. Try to keep this as straight as I can. That's going to go all up under the edge of that water. Try to put it on kind of quick, because then I gotta kind of run it down a little. So a little heavier kind of in here. That should come to a over here. And then before it has a chance to dry, I think I'm going to take another brush and kind of smooth out the bottom of it. Laying it on there. Take my little flat brush here maybe and kind of blend in little horizontal lines again. Something about like that. Get to it as close as I can. I know I'm getting in my dune here, but I'll fix that. Now some of these lines come on down, and some of them do kind of have that, they do kind of follow the shoreline. I just don't want all my lines to be 45-degree angles. It's going to look weird if it does. But some of these, where the smaller lines here, I'll go ahead and put some more of that. This is just whatever seaweed or trash or whatever has kind of washed up on the shore. Kind of creates another line up here. It follows the water line, maybe when the tide is up. There's some other areas that just have some spots of stuff. Always stuff like that in the sand. Kind of soften that a little. A couple spots in here where there was some little stuff in the water. And there's some really fine, I don't know how much of this I want to get in here, but there's some really fine little darker lines in the water up here. The other thing, and I'll come back and forth with these, but the other thing is the waves back there. As I said, they're not white. They're going to have a little bit of a blue tint to them. They got a lot of white, but that's way too pretty. Right there, we'll pull that into this dirty brown just a little bit. If I can get it to be kind of a dirty blue. And then these are kind of going into the dune here and pulling back. I'm not going to spend too much time on this and too much detail. It's a wave, a couple of waves. They just kind of show up as just white spots on here. Not a whole lot of detail to it, but it does need to be going in the right direction. Just a little bit there. Bless you. Comes back like that. I think that's probably about enough of that. A little bit of white caps over here where the water's kind of rippling up. I don't know how much of that I want to really get into. Just a little. You can kind of put a little on like this. Just pull it back. If you can get that to work right. Put it on and kind of pull it back. Not really wet enough to do that with. I don't do too much. It's such a small area. If you do too much, it's going to look weird. But the last part of that, before it dries, I've got some of this peach. See if I can get that to activate a little bit. Some of this light peach color. Lots of water. And you can see where the water just kind of reflect. It's just kind of showing through there. See if I can get some of that color on my brush. And even up onto the sand a little bit. Get some of that peach. There's some areas in here that kind of glare. Yeah. Like that. And there where it kind of brightens up. With that peach. That's probably enough of that. I may put a couple little more little spots and details back here on the bottom part, but there's a little bit of that peach kind of showing in the water here too. A little, just dry brush some of that in there. Don't get too carried away with it. Yeah. works. It's kind of like that cloud though. We spend a lot of time on it. Spend a lot of time there because that kind of is a focal point. The light's all coming there. But I want to get completely walk away finished with that water before I'm focused on the dunes. I don't want to have to go back and forth between that. So let's finish all that. All right. It's about time to get some of this dark in here. Now it's going to be a process on this grass because we're going to paint that glowing light colored grass in the background before we put the dark in front of it. But what I want to get in place is some of the big dark masses. So not the stuff sticking up, don't start getting into the grasses and stuff yet, but the dark masses at the top of here and all this little extra stuff that's coming down the hill, especially over here. Notice how like you can't really tell where this dune stops and that background starts. When we put this in, that kind of divides that for us. So it's just dirtying up the sand, having little grasses and things, dead grasses showing through. That's what's creating all this contour, all this shape. Notice how this part comes down and then widens out with the shape of this stuff down here, because it creates that flat surface. So right now everything here is just kind of flat. That's what's going to give us our contour. So I'm going to start with this is just a Dagger brush, but I'm going to start by just putting some shapes in, but then I'm going to go quickly to my my stiff bristled fan brush to get some of those little shapes in. And I got a clean palette here to make some dark. I don't want to get any of that white in there, and I don't want too much water in it to begin with. And this is just brown and blue. It is a little towards the brown side, but it's almost black. You see that? And I just got to figure out where my biggest masses of dark are, and they start creating some of those shapes. Now, I know up here I don't really have any shape going on at all just yet. And as I put this in, this dark stuff kind of helps me create some of that. This is maybe a little too dark. Maybe go a little more brown. Just a touch more brown in it. That a little more towards the brown side. Let's see. There's some shapes that kind of come up from here. It's all going to have grasses. It's not going to have these hard lines. This is just putting the paint on there for now. Get back with my stiff bristle brush and kind of give it some more character. Pretty dark right in here. And that's the thing about this. These dark areas are what's going to create that light. So having some of this dark sand, dark grasses and things here are what's going to make that really bright light stand out back there. Put a couple of shapes in here. And there's more to it, but each time you're putting this on, you got to be thinking about where's the contour of the sand dune going to go. As we get into this area, there's a pretty good bit right here. And I'm kind of going by the picture, but at some point you got to go by what's on your canvas and not so much by the picture. All of this I'm going to kind of convert to grass eventually. Especially want to focus on this part over here. You got a really dark line here that's going to push that water back. It does come up to grasses up here, so I'm not really worried about the top edge of it yet. This front edge, and it goes to grasses too. It really has a pretty hard edge in here. That helps kind of create that front dunes. It kind of separates the foreground dunes from the background dunes. over there. Right, and then I think I'm going to switch brushes now before I get too much solid stuff in there, because this one's going to give me all my little texture. I have to use a little more water with this to get it to separate good, but really thinking about just texture, not really thinking about blades of grass, just the texture of it. I've got too much water in that time. A good bit on this piece. It kind of comes down pretty far. And you know, hardly any of this is like clean. There's little spots of specks of stuff everywhere. Just want to make sure that when you put those in, they help your contour, not hurt it. You can get a line going in the wrong direction. It can break everything up and make it look bad. We got a little bit of an area that kind of comes down here. I'm having a hard time getting this brush to act right. Now it's too chewed up. It already kind of created that little swoop. So I put that block in there, but I knew I was going to come back and soften up those hard edges with this grass. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some going back and forth and step back and look at it and let it dry and see what it needs. You can definitely do too much of this, but if you look at it, there's stuff scattered all over the place. As you get down to the stuff that's kind of lighter, that's not as defined, you just want to use a little more water. Kind of put it in, let the tips of the brush kind of give you a shape. And then what you can do, keeping my contour, what you can do is then go back with just water, kind of push that around a little bit, and it'll dry a lot softer, give you some good values and textures and all that stuff. I just want to make sure that I keep my flow going in the right direction. That. You got an area kind of in here that we talked about where it kind of has some flattened out area. I'll use my flat brush to kind of help me create that. Kind of flattens out at the bottom right there. This will dry a little less intense since it's got the water in it like that. It'll dry. It's a little more forgiving when it dries. That as horizontal as I can, and then you pepper in a few darker, grasses popping up through the sand, and it makes it look a little more right. Kind of contour this edge a little bit, and not yet worried about like the grass edge at the top. However, if I can soften it just a little bit, it'll be easier to cover up later if it's not a hard line. And this is just, this first layer, like we always say, is just the underpainting. Especially up here, I need to get some texture on that line. Yeah. Harder line here.
Make it look easy.
You let the brush do a lot of the work for you. It will do it for you for sure. Right, I'm going to let that dry, and we'll come back to that we'll go back and step back and look at it and see what it needs and come back to it. That's as far as we're probably going to get tonight. We got a couple more steps to do. We don't have too much more to do tonight. We got to get all these tall grasses in here and maybe a little bit more detail in the bottom here. What I want to start with is this white stuff, this really light grass that's glowing behind here. And there's really three colors of it. There's the white, and then there's this light yellow, and then there's the dark in front of it. So we'll kind of do that in 3 stages. As we come over here, that middle color, it has a lot of fuzzy grass here, but I may do a few more taller ones here. And I don't know how much of this green I want to get in here. I probably don't want to mess with the green. I'm probably just going to keep these colors as we come over. But to start with, I want to make sure my glow is bright enough, and right now it's not. So I want to get that, I want to make that white color, and I'm going to use it to glow that up just a little bit more. So let's see if I can make a color that will do that. Now I may have to get some titanium white in order to get that glow.
Yeah, that was hard for me to make.
It's hard to get it to be that bright for sure. It's got some yellow, but it's got a little bit of that magenta too, because it's got a kind of a peach tone to it. But if you get too much of that, it kills it. Let's see. And it may just be that it needs several layers of this to make it bright enough. That's a pretty good bit brighter, but it's a little too white. See if I can get it a little more color without lightening it too much. Yeah, that's pretty close. It's similar to what we have up in the sky there. And I'm just gonna put this here, and it's gonna have those light grasses kind of in front of it, so part of it's gonna be covered. That one right there is the most important one. I want to make sure it's nice and bright. So I may come back and do another coat of that. But while I'm in that color, got a small liner brush here. Actually, let me get my real small liner brush. This one's even smaller. This is going to be a make or break part on this painting. When we start painting these small grasses, if you've got a bigger liner, or you got a brush that ain't working right, and you start getting some real thick grasses coming in here, it's going to make it look really weird. I think before I even put any grass, just a little area where the grass is going to be. So light right there, light right there. So then I want to, the way you want to do this is you want to get your paint like almost the consistency of ink, and just kind of roll that brush to a tip in there. And then so our wind is blowing, the reeds are kind of blowing to the left. So the easiest way to do that, this just takes a little practice, is you just start doing small circles like this. You kind of get some circles going, and then let your brush land on the downstroke and kind of come up. And you do it fast enough, you can get them all kind of curling in that direction. And these light ones are going to be good practice for the darker ones that are going to go on top, because the dark ones are going to show up a lot. They're going to show up a lot more than these do. That this glowing white grass in the background is what really makes this stand out and make this painting glow. You wouldn't even have noticed it if I hadn't pointed it out to you, but that's a big part of it. This is all behind the dark grasses. So I'm going to work quick so I can wipe that off the bottom before it gets dry. Make sure I don't want too much of this to be real tall. I'll get the height on the next part. And while that's still wet, I'm just going to use a clean brush to kind of clean off the bottom of that. Paper towel. Alright, and there's more of it. kind of coming off this way. Get back on my brush a little bit. If you get up on it like I was just doing, it's hard to control. If you get way back on the back, you got a lot more control over it. I'm starting kind of low in my dark grass on purpose because I know I'm going to wipe that off. Just kind of work quick and put some on and wipe it off. Alright, so then there's a little bit of light stuff coming up here. It's not showing up much in front of that cloud, and there's a little bit coming up from here. Pretty much wherever that bright stuff is at. This on this side kind of comes over. It's almost invisible, so I don't know that you can really do too much of it. But let's talk about that second color while that's drying. That second shade, more of the same, but it's going to have more, less gesso in it. It's going to have more color to it. May have to tone it down a little with a little brown. Try to see what that looks like. A little bit of brown in there. See how close that is to what basically going to be that area right there. It's got some white in it. It's almost a gold. Yeah, something about like that. I still got a little too light with it that time. There's some happy mixture of yellow, brown, and magenta and gesso that'll get you there. Yeah, that's closer. So again, pause it for a second. Let's dry this real quick. If you don't mind, hit that wheel. All right, second part, kind of more the same. Darker shade. I don't want to cover up all of this, but I'm going to get some of this in there. So real fine curls at the top. That's what you're going to want. That's what you're going to want to achieve. And if you dry the layer below and you start doing this and it don't look right, you can wipe it off and start over. I'm used to going the other way with my circles, but this one, it's important that it goes this way because it draws you in that direction. There we go. This takes a little practice if you're not used to doing these little curls. Get back on the brush. Not getting enough paint. There we go. You get. I think the thing is I need to start lower in the in my dark area there. And it's better to have 100 little tiny invisible ones than to have 5 or 6 big ones,
Darn.
But it does kind of get a little solid towards the bottom edge of it. Just kind of tap some of that in. Let that get a little solid. Use my paper towel now to wipe that off. It's getting there. Kind of looks chaotic, that's okay. Good bit more at the very base of it like this. A few more in this direction. Okay. And I'm just kind of focusing on these two right here to show the process, but I'm going to do kind of the same thing over here. And you can kind of look at what it's giving you to see where it needs to be. I know with this mid-tone, there's a pretty big bit on this second dune here that's kind of just covered with a fuzz of it, just a small short grass on that, in that area. I'll go back and forth with that, but one more pause and let's do a few more dark ones over there so we can just see the whole process. Now the dark shade is, we're gonna just make a black, blue and brown. It's gotta be a little more towards the brown side. And if we put yellow in it, it's gonna turn green. So don't want too much green in it. I really want it to be more brown. Yeah, really, really dark brown. So there's some color. Go back with my little liner. And I've been avoiding putting any in the bottom right here, but if you look closely at this, there is a few lighter ones in there, so I may end up coming back to that, putting a few more of those, but really want to focus on the ones that are showing above the dune first. Dark here. These are the ones that really need to be thin.
They need to be long.
They are longer. They're not much longer than what's behind there. They're more concentrated towards the middle of that dune, kind of right on the tip of it. That got a little heavy right there, but I think I can make it work.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now they'll have a couple of little spots that are heavier, and that was too heavy. I'm gonna start over. And that's the good thing about this. If it's dry underneath and you get to, rather than just working it to death, wipe it off and start over. Sometimes this works better if it's a little wet like that anyway, because it flows a little better. Not too wet, but if it's a little bit wet. Let's see if I can do better this time. Try to pull them up slowly. There we go. Curl. Some of them have got those little things at the top too. Get those in. When the brush starts to run out of paint and you get those really thin, wispy ones, that's when you just want to kind of keep going fast. Use up all the paint in the brush to get those out. The trick to this is just the very tip of the brush touches. Make sure you get several that lean over the top. You get, if they're all going straight up, it looks weird. Some of them got to go that way. They got to cross over each other. You got to have some in here that cross over. Like that. Alright, so the ones that have the little part at the top, that's just going to be like a series of little dashes. You don't even really have to connect to anything.
Oh, I see.
They can just. Some can be really small, some a little bigger. The trick is just make them random. Some of them are going to be low in the pile, in the mix down here.
That reminds me of that flower pot we made.
Yeah, sort of the same kind of thing. Let's see if I can get some real.
That
tiny
really
dots.
makes it come alive.
It does.
Yes.
It's all about contrast. So there's a light spot behind there. This
Yeah.
dark stuff really jumps out. But I do want this to get a lot more kind of thick right in here. At the top of this dune. I don't want to be able to see the top rounded off the way it is. I want this right here to be a lot more kind of solid at the very bottom. But that's pretty much the process. It's going to be light, a little darker, and then we'll come back and put some little highlight twigs in here. But that's it. We're going to do that. We're going to do it over here. We're going to move that all the way across. We're going to be done with this thing.
Mustard black.